It is written that Angel Anarius, the first father of humankind, wandered the world in grief for ages after the massacre of his fellow renegade angels and demons by his lover Lilith. Anarius had observed humanity, watching us face challenges and overcome obstacles. It is heavily suggested by some accounts that he had even come to favor mortals, for he saw us, unlike our ancient ancestors, as no threat. It is further stated that when Anarius learned of the Triune religion, he recognized the Primeval's deception immediately, and feared not only for his own safety, but also for that of his adopted children, should heaven become aware of humanity's existence. And so the text tells us that Anarius created his own religion to counter the influence of the Triune. Taking on the mantle of the prophet, Anarius founded a gospel based on the tenets of tolerance, cooperation, and unity. He disseminated this doctrine from his cathedral light, gaining fame for his youthful physical perfection and spreading the church's influence through angelic powers of persuasion. Soon, between them, the Triune and the cathedral light held sway over much of the eastern lands. Having studied the matter in great detail, I conclude that Anarius' founding of the cathedral light is the true beginning of the Sin War. The Sin War, at its inception, was not waged on physical battlefields. It was a struggle between the Triune and Cathedral Light to claim the hearts and souls of humankind. Agents of both religions carried their messages to the people, building bases of power, constructing monuments, and winning the absolute loyalty of their faithful supplicants. Into the midst of this battle of dominance came a single human, Uldyssian, a man who would break the cycle and rise not only to challenge both religions, but also ultimately bring an end to the Sin War through a staggering chain of events, shaking the foundation of both the heavens and the hells in the process. Uldyssian's story begins in a small village where he lived with his youngest brother Menden and a few close friends. It was here that Uldyssian first discovered his Nephilim powers while defending a woman named Lilia from a priest representing the Cathedral of Light. Uldyssian learned that he was capable of awakening Nephilim powers in others. He traveled from town to town, demonstrating to others that they did not need either the Triune or the Prophet and his Cathedral Light. And as Uldyssian's powers evolved, so too did the powers of his family, friends and followers, who would become to be known as the Edorim, or those who have seen. While pursued by both the Triune and the Cathedral, Uldyssian cultivated his powers, growing in strength day by day until his abilities were far beyond those of any other human. Lilia, however, was soon revealed to be none other than Lilith, the demon daughter of Mephisto returned from exile. It was Lilith who had awakened the Nephilim abilities in Uldyssian. It was her desire to empower mortals so they might drive both Anarius and the agents of the burning hells from Sanctuary, but she was willing to sacrifice mortal lives to see this plan unfold. Once her true nature was revealed, Lilith departed, though she would return over the course of the war to torment Uldyssian again. At this time, the forces of the Triune clashed repeatedly with Uldyssian and his Edorim, and it was soon revealed that the Triune was held under the sway of the demonic influence. Uldyssian declared war on the Triune, obliterating its churches and decimating its holy armies. Observe, dear listener, that the mortal Uldyssian succeeded in bringing the Sin War to a halt. Humankind, not angels or demons, would ultimately win the Sin War. Uldyssian soon learned of the World Stone and achieved the unthinkable, altering its attunement to allow the powers of his Edorim to flourish. The Edorim then came into conflict with Anarius himself. The battle between mortals and Anarius' forces rocked the core of the world. It is said that Daenerys, in danger of losing the battle with Odysseus, panicked, realizing how wrong he'd been about humanity's weakness. In that moment, he feared that mortals were even more dangerous and abominable than the ancients. It was then that Tyrael himself intervened, reacting to the seeming injustice of the Odysseus' actions against Daenerys. Tyrael called forth the angelic host of the high heavens. Hundreds of angels descended upon Sanctuary. Much to the surprise of everyone present, however, the ground erupted as the burning hells joined the battle as well. The fears of Lilith and Daenerys were realized, as the eternal conflict raged on the world of men. Odysseus unleashed the whole of his power, releasing a seemingly impossible amount of energy, driving the forces of both heaven and hell back to their domains, and demonstrating once and for all that humankind truly had the ability to alter the very fabric of our universe. Odysseus realized that the power he and his Edarim possessed was tearing Sanctuary apart. It was too much, gained too quickly. He felt also that he was losing himself, that his Nephilim birthright was consuming his humanity. And he saw, in that moment, the potential for Nephilim power to do the same to all of humankind. And so, in an act of the purest selflessness and sacrifice, which proved beyond a doubt that some humanity still remained within him, Odysseus brought their raging energies back into himself, then released them one final time. The release of those energies negated his very being. Odysseus' final release of energy flooded the World Stone, resetting it, and thereby stripping his followers of their Nephilim powers. And so, it was that Odysseus had chosen the human heart over the godhood and ultimately gave his life so that humanity might survive. In the wake of these incredible events, I can only imagine that the burning hells were emboldened to discover that their suspicions of humankind's potential were proved correct. As for the angels, it is said that the Angelic Council voted on whether humanity should be allowed to live. It is reported that Imperius voted to exterminate our race. Malthael abstained, so his vote was not counted, while Ariel and Etheriel voted on our behalf. Imperius was confident that Tyrael would vote to eliminate humanity, and he knew that even if the deliberation ended in a tie, humankind would be eradicated. And so it fell to the Archangel Tyrael to cast the deciding vote. I believe that it was here that Tyrael broke from his rigid outlook. He had witnessed Odysseus' heroic and very human act, and he became fascinated with mortal hearts, believing that perhaps the universe cannot be defined by laws alone. Tyrael saw in us the possibility for complete ruin, but hope as well, for us to become what many of the angels themselves wished they could be. And so it was that the Archangel of Justice cast his vote in favor of sparing humankind. As humanity's right to exist was assured, a truce was brokered between the Dangerous Council and the Lords of the Burning Hells. As a condition of this truce, Daenerys was delivered to the demons for mutilation and eternal torment. As for the Edarim, it is written that the angels removed all memories from these events from their minds. The Nephilim powers were forgotten, and mortal life returned to some semblance of normality. And what of Lilith? Accounts suggest that earlier in the conflict, before the prophet clashed with Odysseus, Daenerys had banished Lilith once again, and there are no further accounts of her interfering with the affairs of mortals. Though the sin war faded quietly into history, it is imperative that we recognize its import, for it stands as a testament to the sheer power that all human beings carry within them. and, I would argue, it is a war that echoes within each of us to this very day.